Maria, please take a seat. And then Jeroen Geurts is here, neuroscientist and president of ZonMW. Liz Bonnen, presenter at the BBC, biochemist, science and wildlife presenter. Dick Vethaak, you heard from him this morning. He's the professor of ecotoxicology at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. Cyril is also back here in the hall. Thank you very much. What did you do today? Did you leave the hall and had fun in Amsterdam? You slept. Yeah, you just flew in from New York, right? Jinon Jensen, founder and executive director of HEAL. And then we have Sean. Do I pronounce it correctly now, Sean? Sean. Yeah, I was looking for a guy, and then we saw you, which is stupid because my daughter is called Dylan. So how could I make the mistake? Sean Sutherland. Who was there during the breakout session with Sean? Just to see half of them. So the other half hasn't seen you before. All of you had very powerful presentations, but in a nutshell, what is your organization doing?
We are a global social change movement with one goal, which is to ignite and inspire the world to turn off the plastic tap.
Yeah, and you are working with supermarkets here in Amsterdam.
So, yep, I mean, some of you may remember the plastic-free aisle campaign that we opened February of last year. Huge thanks to Maria for that introduction at Ecoplaza in Amsterdam. It was the world's first plastic-free aisle. So we work with industry, with governments, and largely with brands and businesses so that we can ignite change from inside.
Perfect. Would you all like a drink?
Love a drink.
What can it be?
Got a beer? We're in Amsterdam.
One beer, anybody? Who would like to have a glass of alcohol? It's almost done.
Sure, why not?
Okay, so more beer?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 3 waters?
Water,
3, 2 beers, 3 beers. Wine. Water.
Now
Okay, sorry, but otherwise this doesn't function. Okay, here we go. Let's start with Liz and Dick. First of all, what were the most alarming outcomes to you guys? Liz.
Sorry, we were chatting about what we were going to drink.
Shall I repeat the question?
Yes, so sorry.
You have been here, and Sean called you the queen of plastic in a good way, by the way, for England, because you are the person that has so much information on this subject already and told your audience about it.
I had to really jump in feet first and learn all about the subject for this documentary, but ever since I just haven't been able to let it go. And I actually stalk Plastic Planet to keep myself informed and to continue the conversation. And so I basically first of all asked, can I come to this summit? And then Maria very kindly asked me to do a quick talk. But I think it's all been incredibly eye-opening and enlightening. This is all issues that we suspected, and now that the research is finally, catching up, as it does, it takes time. With painfully little funding, it has to be said. So it's something that I'm going to try and really campaign about because I think it's absurd.
Funding.
Yes, absolutely. But
is there any funding in the UK? I mean, are there?
No, not enough. Absolutely not. I remember speaking to Stephanie Wright, another scientist, who, I think she got really good funding because as the attention was turned to human health, things have changed. But still, considering how serious this issue is, the fact that the science is still on the back foot because there isn't enough funding, for me, is one of the main issues here that I, as a communicator, will help, hopefully, to communicate so that we can get more more support. But so the point is, what I'm learning today has been incredible. It's only the beginning. And as part of sort of this community, I hope I can consider myself now, I will just be shouting it from the rooftops as much as I can. But it has been shocking. And when I got my own results from my urine test, as much as I was saying to Sean, bring it on, I wanted to show everything.
Wait a minute, you have to explain. You did a test, right?
Yes, I did a talk at the influencers session here, so if you were upstairs you didn't hear, but I was one of the people who got their urine tested for phthalates and bisphenols, and I had BPA and 2 types of phthalates in my urine, and the 3 of most concern are actually on the list of substances of very high concern on the European Chemicals Agency list. And as much as I wanted those chemicals to be in my urine so I could help to propel change, it was really sobering to actually read it and know that, yes, all of this stuff that's most likely associated to the plastic chemicals we get through our diet, through the plastic packaging, is in my system. So, yeah, a lot of work to do. But
I think outside this hall, but I'm not sure, actually, but most people in the Netherlands, let's speak for myself, are still collecting, recycling plastic. And we think that a guy that is very famous in the Netherlands, Bojan Slat, with the Ocean Cleanup Project, is doing a great thing. I learned today, for example, from you, Sean, that this is not the way to go. It's not a solution at all to try to clean up the oceans, because it's a ridiculous plan. Maybe not ridiculous, but...
It's not ridiculous, but it doesn't work, end of pipe. It doesn't work. We said it already from the very start, and you can start to clean up a little bit of the debris there in the ocean, and we know it's probably 2% of what's already there available. He can catch only maybe a small fraction of what's there in the ocean.
But isn't that, sorry to interrupt, but then a problem then that this is the image that people get on TV and talk shows, that this is a solution?
It is no solution, no. He will move now to the estuaries, and particularly in Indonesia and Asia, to be closer to the sources and to clean up the rivers there.
Right, but my question is, how do you get this information from this hall outside, so you can enlighten people that have absolutely no idea about what has been said inside here? Anybody?
And that's where it's all gone wrong. We've allowed the Coca-Colas, the P&Gs, the big polluters of the planet to somehow take our gaze from the fact they're the people choosing it, they're the people pumping it out. So what I was saying upstairs was, this isn't a pollution problem because it's a production problem. So it's not about cleanup, it's about stopping it. And what I find it very exciting about today is that we know that responsibility, culpability, and liability will be the levers of change. And what we have all learned today is we are at the brink of these big businesses realizing they are responsible, and we know they are. And we are going to be pointing that finger at them right now. They're the ones that need to change. It's not about me putting the right thing in the right recycling bin. That's bullshit. This is about them stopping using plastic in the first place.
Okay. You wanted to add something.
For that. I wanted. So I'm from the Health and Environment Alliance, which is an NGO working to promote health and environment through legislative change and awareness raising with our members across the European region. And I think while it is into industry, I definitely agree with Sean about stopping the production of plastic. We need to move towards a world without plastic, because plastic is made of chemicals that are really not, that are harming our health. We already have a lot of science. It's so great to see these studies coming out. But I think we have enough action today to be moving towards restricting production and really strengthening the laws on the chemicals that are harming our health. And the European Union is in a unique place to do this in the coming months, because they've actually promised, the Commission President, who is a medical doctor, she's promised to come out with a zero pollution objective. So we need a zero pollution objective for plastic. And we need to put the equation of health impacts in that, because I think then that will motivate people to do a lot more.
So this is the first conference in Amsterdam. Cyril, you are based in New York City, and you're originally from Germany, from Freiburg, but you're not for nothing in that city, because a lot of influential people are living there, as in London. So my question to you is, what should happen next year? Is this it? Or is there going to be a follow-up thing?
So first, hello?
Yep, here you go.
First of all, I don't believe that anybody in that movement did something wrong. I don't believe that everyone starts is wrong by trying, even if I never believed in cleaning up the high seas. But I believe that the biodiversity of this movement led to the point that we are now, where pretty much everybody knows that there is something wrong with plastic. Even if people often don't know what plastic is. And that's the interesting part. People don't know that plastic is in their clothing, is in objects they're consuming every day. It's an abstract, very abstract conversation for a lot of people. That's why everything that brings it close to them and relates it to everyday items is appreciated. And if it's pictures from the beach, if it's pictures from animals that are found with tarps, bottles, bags in their bellies, honestly, these are all campaign tools. And I find that a cleanup, even if you probably will never ever clean up the oceans, but a cleanup is a very meditative way of confronting yourself with that failure. It's a very good way to go out and see and do something, and also kind of overcome this idea that you can't have any impact. Being out there and cleaning up, doing it on the street, doing it on a beach, is the best way to reflect. Is it the solution? No. The solution, and I agree with that, I think we all agree, is
that the material itself is the problem. And it had been kept in place for too long because it's a technology that worked very well. And I would not even blame the brands, I would blame the material vendors. They just didn't want to change it. Plastic is such a good business. Why would you change a winning formula? Why would you build new machines, new supply chains if the old works so well? So what they did over the last 50 years was nothing else than campaigning, pushing the responsibility away from them towards the consumer, calling them names like litterbugs and whatever.
Do you agree that it's comparable to what the tobacco industry did?
100%.
Yeah.
It's what people do. You have a bad technology, you defend it with PR.
Maria, you say it's even worse.
It's even worse. They already knew BPA was bad for our health in the 30s of last century. They put everything in place, and they still use the same marketing techniques as they did in the 50s. So it's exactly the same. They never changed their tactics. We are addicts of plastic because it's pushed upon us. They say we need it, but we don't want it. So it's all about the public. We can change it together. We don't need it.
Yeah.
How important is the research that has been presented this morning? Because even though it is preliminary, and we don't know if the effects are extremely negative, somewhat negative, maybe not negative. It's, to me, and I think to many people, it's a scaremonger. If you hear in this research, the results, you think, okay, now something has to be done.
When we were told that the ozone layer was disappearing, we were perfectly in state of closing that hole again, and we did it very rapidly. If we know that we get sick of plastic, we can start refusing it and reducing it. And if the costs for our health are more than the profits...
He is not totally agreeing. Why not?
Well, because, you're talking about a single compound or a group of compounds here. That is, you can easily do, try to reduce that or ban it out. But the plastics, as said before, these are the sources. The single-use plastic is one source. The textile fiber is another source. What about the car tires? What about the polymeric paints everywhere?
Yeah.
On ships, on waterworks, on buildings, in houses. You have to deal with that sources too. And not sure how to do that. It's not that in the picture yet. Policymakers don't even see it yet.
Yeah.
At the very least, what we can tackle, as far as I could understand when we were starting to investigate this issue, is the 40% of plastic that's being made that's used as single use. It's not now that we're understanding the extent of the damage this could be causing to our health, of course it's not the only thing that we tackle, but we're not even tackling the single-use nonsense that nobody wants in their supermarkets. At least let's make a change with that.
Yeah.
Is a strategy like in the tobacco industry naming and shaming?
A very clever lady who might be sitting on this panel, said to me when I was learning and my head was, I was trying not to allow my head to explode the more I was learning about this, that, it's going to take an individual to sue the petrochemical industry in the same way as a person sued the tobacco industry for change to happen. Perhaps, and I agree, this is where we're heading potentially, to really make change happen.
Cyril?
I believe that I think fortune nights are amazing, and to put the burden on individuals, honestly, there is a lot of power there. But what we have done in the last 7 years was actually using the brands to put pressure on the raw material industry.
You are working with the brands, right?
We are working with
Adidas,
brands.
for example.
We have like 1,200 brands that want to work with us. We have 3 that work with us. And we said, we're going to only work with you if you commit to a long-term strategy. If you're phasing out, you're avoiding plastic, you're cutting it down, you're switching from virgin down to recycling, knowing that this is not a solution, and you're investing heavily into new materials.
To be a devil's advocate, are they using you as a fig leaf, or are they really doing something?
I make them look good if they're doing good things. I make them look very bad if they're making bad things. And everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants to get up in the morning and say, I'm doing better today. Truth is, though, that the results speak for themselves, because the moment Adidas declared that by 2024 they're going out of virgin plastic, there was a big wave in the whole industry. And the next move is to say, okay, we're going out of plastic. But the truth is that recycling business will not ever work. It will not ever be lucrative. The moment we're switching to recycling, we're ending plastic. Because recycling is not an alternative. People will not be interested to run that. They're not even prepared. No big investments were made. I believe that the recycling debate is a catalyst debate. We are moving actually to new materials. That's what's happening.
Jeroen, you are the guy who subsidized this research. 1.5 million for 15 projects a year long, which is naturally, I don't know, you're a scientist, a year is like nothing?
A year is very short, but I've been looking at some of the progress that's been made half a year, so halfway, and it's very good.
Progress is an ironic word in this context, right? Because the progress that is made is that we now see that most probably all the negative effects that many of you already know about are scientifically being maybe proven.
Well, what I saw, to be very blunt, what I saw this afternoon is that some things are scary, some things are reassuring. So it can also be the case. I haven't heard
that last category.
Yeah, well...
Not today, at least.
No, I can imagine. But I think in a year's time, when everything is finished, because we will have the results, the definitive results in a year, I think you'll be reassured at some points. And you will be scared and worried about some other points.
So you are a scientist.
I am, yeah.
It's not black, not white, but... In any case, I understood before we went on stage, you told me I have some news.
I do have some news. I have a little announcement to make. You know, when I look at this, I think this is a tremendously important problem that we need to tackle before it gets too bad and it's too late. And the health effects are very likely. Again, results are going to come in over the coming year. But the results are very likely going to be worrying at several points. What I think we should do is invest now, have a lot of awareness about the problem and also invest money for research, because this 1.5 million is simply not enough. What I'm prepared to do, we had a crash session this week prior to the conference with the board. What I'm prepared to do is add another 1 million to that pot, in the hopes that there is a number of people here at the table and also in the audience that will say, okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back home. We're going to do a crash course with the board, and we're going to add some money to the pot.
That's good news. 1 million extra for research.
Well done.
Thank you. Good.
Just wondering, I mean, some of you left, but are there any people who say, yes, I commit some money as well? Am I too optimistic?
Too optimistic.
Yeah?
Two glasses.
Two glasses, sure. You need millions. Maria, how much do you need for this research?
How much do we need, Rick? You can better predict.
What we need? Obviously much more money, I can tell you that. This is research that will go on for 5, 10, 15, 20 years maybe even. It's not something you solve in 1 year. We on in vitro level now, on the hazard identification characterization level, we need to end up with epidemiological studies, which take already by definition years. So there's a long way to go.
Do you think that the industry or governments will believe if the research is bad? I mean, if it shows that we are getting really sick or that it's really bad for a pregnant woman, will there be organizations like we see with climate change who will say, or leaders of countries, fake news, come on, this is all a couple of people that are having NGOs or strange organizations and they're just blurting this into the world? I mean, is it difficult for you as a scientist to get this out there if there is a negative message?
No, it's not. That's why we have this beautiful combination here with the NGOs, you know, the scientists, and this is the strength of what we're doing here today.
Yeah.
We're already doing that.
So how this typically goes is that in the startup phase, we see a problem. We think, you know, this is potentially very bad for our health, and then in the startup phase, you need money that you can't really get very easily. So you need to scrape every single reserve that you have, and then when you start seeing the results of the research, then people get really interested. Okay. So in the coming years, we need to come up with a plan based on research, and then come up with more funds.
And that's when we also need the lawyers.
Yeah.
Because once we have the hint, that there is real impact on human health, that's when the lawyers kick in. And all we need is for big business, for the fossil fuel industry to realize that the bell is chiming for them. That's going to make the difference. It is all going to be about policy, legislation, and liability.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll just lead on the policy, because I think while I very much appreciate research, one of the points I've been making today is that we know that the plastics are made of toxic chemicals. I talked about an example of brominated flame retardants. We tested toys. We found some of the toys had brominated flame retardants from electronic waste. So recycling is not just the issue. And what scares me the most is to say, okay, we're going to research more, when we know so much about some of the chemicals, as bisphenol A. And we've banned bisphenol A in baby bottles, but it's still being allowed in food packaging in Europe today.
Are you saying that...
And we have so many studies which say there are all these health impacts. So I feel like, okay, if we're going to wait 10, 20 years, and the plastics industry says we're going to, I don't know what you were saying, triple the production, quadruple the production, I think we are really going to be in a very bad place. And we need to connect that also with our addiction to carbon pollution and climate change. Because, we're saying, we're going to reduce our carbon emissions, and yet we're not going to burn fossil fuels, but we're extracting them to make plastics. And that is a link that we've talked about a bit today, but and I think the public needs to understand that.
Okay, you say, we need more research, but the facts are already out there. That's what you are saying. I listened today very carefully to all of you, and what was interesting to me is that the first speakers, so the scientists, they are very nuanced. And then came the UK and the US speakers, and it's action now. Come on, we know already where we are. Let's do something about this, and let's go into this fight. I think you're the same. You want to go?
What I think is you need science to... it starts with a snowflake, and then it becomes an avalanche. This is the first time that scientists say we have something to worry about. And that's a message. If you send that out and you combine that with what Shannon says and what Sean says and what Jeroen says and what Liz says and what Cyril says, and especially what Dick is going to say, I think, then you have a story. And it's all about storytelling, and that's what we do today.
Yeah, Dick, Maria is a former television producer, so she puts you on the spot now.
I see.
What would you like to say, Dick?
Well, all the scientists that are working or involved in the program Microplastic and Health of Zon and we have formulated a statement, and I would like to read that statement to all of you. It's a long one. In fact, I think Jeroen just formulated it in only 2 sentences. The same thing, but I have to read the thing anyway. So
I'm known for simplifying things.
There you go. Okay. So it reads as follows: the abundance of micro and nanoplastics in the living environment requires a better understanding of human exposure to plastic particles, their uptake, fate, and their health effects. This knowledge is essential to reduce potential adverse health effects and guide the design of effective measures to prevent further pollution of both the environment and our bodies. As presented today, the research community still has many unsolved questions. We need to continue these nascent studies with follow-up research in 2020. That's why I'm very happy with $1 million already, The 51-year projects are making a promising start, but are certainly not long enough to provide the body of data needed to answer the most pressing questions about health risks of plastic particles. Further funding is much needed, and we welcome your support in increasing research funding for microplastic health and research. And I'm still... Thank you. They're making a good start, making a very good start.
How many scientists agreed on this statement?
Well, I think if you count all the scientists involved in this program now, you deal with almost 35 different expert groups with an international component as well. It's not only Dutch scientists. So I guess altogether you're talking about 60, 70 scientists, 60 to 70.
What's the signal here, Maria? How important is this?
Well, it's a lot of talk. I saw him having some trouble with it. The only thing that matters is that today we did do something to turn the tide. We everybody here, everybody who's attending, everybody who was speaking, this is something I worked for the last 4 years with my team. And I'm very proud of this team because they made this all happen. I think this is the turning point. We will continue from here on, and I can tell you there will be 2 more plastic health summits. Probably with Cyril in the United Nations in New York, but I leave it up to him to tell something about that.
Could you tell us, Cyril, what is the plan here? Because that would be a super international focus, naturally, to have it at the United Nations headquarters in New York.
I've been forced on the table here. I would say, first of all, the problem of plastic is established. Everybody knows about it. I mean, I'm just coming from a 10-day negotiation with governments at the UN. It was Climate Week, and plastic had a big, big place there. And we announced the first countries that are actually banning plastic, Maldives and Antigua Barbuda. And we're going now to all 58 small island development states, and we're already negotiating with big countries. And they're phasing out plastic like overnight. It's like, boom. You know, they're saying, gone. And pushing the problem towards the industry. And I think the big debate here, for me, is not anymore, is plastic bad? We all know that. And everybody knows it. And there is a public opinion that forces people to act because plastic is so visual. It's so easy to point a finger at. But I think the true question is, how do we solve it really? Recycling will not be the answer. Plastic is not ready for a circular economy because plastic is not a problem end of life. Plastic is all the time a problem. When you're using it right now, you're doing everything right as a consumer, it's still a problem. So the question is, what's the out? How do we get out of this problem? And it's new technology. The person that comes with a new material, a group that comes with new material to replace single-use plastic bottles tomorrow, they will make billions. It's a technology race. And therefore, and it started currently, it's not something that is around for 2 years.
Are there any positive signs? Is there something on the horizon?
Oh yeah, and I would compare right now, we are encouraging investors in a big scale with the support of big banks to divest from classic portfolios and go into new materials. And there will be a rush now that you can compare with the digital revolution. It will be exactly the same what happened with the internet, with phones, will happen with materials. And plastic is the beginning, because we can't afford any other toxic substances any longer anyway. And plastic is a beautiful visual, and it's easy to fight, but there are other threats that need to be ended right away.
Liz?
Yeah, I also just raise the issue of sustainability, degrowth, a different economic model that I'm sort of being privy to in different panels and discussions that I'm having back in the UK and from people internationally. It's a sheer numbers game, right? There's 7.4 billion of us. That's going to reach 9 billion very soon. And whatever the solutions are going to take their toll on a closed system. David Attenborough, my hero, I'm sure he's probably most of your heroes too. One of my favorite quotes of his is, anybody who thinks you can have infinite growth on a closed planetary system with finite resources is either crazy or an economist. Now, the good thing about, it's brilliant, but the biggest ray of hope I've had through all of this, and it applies, I think, to other environmental issues, is economists are beginning to talk about this in a way that's refreshing. Kate Raworth is one of them. And she may not have it all right, but it's exciting in the sense of the 20th century model. How much financial value can I take out of this resource before throwing it away? It's outdated, it's linear, it's degenerative. And it may apply for alternative materials to solve the plastic crisis. Instead, she's saying that leader economists are talking about a 21st century model that says, when I make this product, how much can it benefit society, but also the natural world of which we are a part? How much can it give back? So when I'm in the plastic or alternative material industry, and I've got a couple of waste products, what other industry can take that? And she talks about an ecosystem of resource use. I do believe that we need to have a paradigm shift in our relationship with the planet, what we produce, how we produce it, and we need to rewrite this economic model that is absolutely outdated. Growth infinite growth. Every company has to grow. The bottom line, the profit line, all of that needs to be looked at. I'm not an economist, I'm a scientist, but I think that has to be part of the discussion if we're really going to solve this environmental crisis and all our environmental
Just
crises.
one, very good. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, one short question in between. You did the test this week
Yes.
at the VU, and I understood a colleague of yours is here from
Yes, Lucy Siegel.
Lucy Siegel, journalist, director. Now she's doing a show on the 24th of October
Yes.
for ITN.
She's been interviewing many of the scientists.
Yeah, I
in
don't know.
fact.
Is she still here, or did she let
Is she
leave the
here?
building? Oh, filming
You're
outside.
here. She's here. There she is.
Are you still here?
Yeah, she's in the audience.
Oh, hello, Lucy.
And you still don't know your results, do you?
Yeah, there is a microphone here. Lucy, can you stand, please, and so you get a hand mic.
Lucy, do you know your results now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it's
I'm not allowed to talk about my results.
No, because of the show.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm keeping a neutral face.
No,
But
fair
the
enough.
question was, do you already know?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all she can say. The point is, we had a
Yeah.
brief discussion outside about, what it means for both of us. I mean, Lucy is an absolute champion for this cause and all environmental causes in Britain, and she's known internationally too. And we had a moment in the reception, sort of going, how does someone like you and I process this and then take it further to communicate? It's a strange situation to be in, to jump in feet first and go, test me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a communicator with this, but I'm also a human being. I'm also coming to terms with the reality of, I know my results,
Right.
what's in my system.
Lucy, you can't, and I totally understand, you can't
No,
reveal
she
the
can't
results,
divulge
but is it
quite yet.
scary to
Yeah,
admit yourself to a test?
I think for me, it's like, when Liz and I were talking before, it's so personal, and I think what I've done is depersonalize environmental impact, like my whole career. I'm always going, look at that over there, that's terrible. And when you have to talk about yourself, it's quite difficult.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah?
I don't know, we haven't met. I heard you are here, that you're doing this show, but are you a mom? Do you have kids?
No, I don't have any children.
So, I mean, these results, could they have an impact on future planning?
Well, I'm of an age when probably not. So
Okay.
I'm child-free or childless, depending on
But we know
how you
full
feel
well
about
it's
these
not,
things.
It's not just about reproduction. It's not just about fetal abnormalities. This is about hormone-mediated cancers. This is about reproductive issues that can cause problems like endometriosis, whether you're going to have children or not. Breast cancer.
Testicular cancer,
So
for
I, like
disease,
Lucy, don't have
Alzheimer's.
children either, and I've chosen not to have children. But when it becomes personal, I'm exactly the same as you, and we need to talk more. We're sort of like ships that pass in the night, and we do virtually the same jobs, but it is very true what Lucy says. This is the first time I go, look at that, this affects us all. Look at this affects us all. This is our future. But this is the first time I've actually taken stock of something that is physically, physiologically, and at a biochemical level affecting my DNA, my health. And it's hard to put into words, and I'm sure when you go through your experience that you'll feel the same. It's a very odd position to be in.
Is it fair to say that a television program like this or the tests of today could be a shocker for a broad audience?
It needs to be. I already posted mine the minute I came off stage.
Yep.
Well, I just wanted to talk about that because in France, where I'm living at the moment, they do a lot of human biomonitoring. So really looking at the contamination. And this is the French Health Ministry and Institute. And they published something maybe a month ago on endocrine disrupting chemicals, where they basically found it in children and moms. And it's a huge, I would say, like you say, awakening. Like, okay, this is, what is this doing to my health? And it also increases people's interest in looking at what are the solutions and what can we do. I know I am a mom. One of the reasons I set up HEAL 15 years ago is I did testing of my hair on methylmercury. Because before I was pregnant, and we did a whole campaign to try and get the EU to have a mercury ban, which is actually happening now, because and that is very, when you know your own results, And you realize that the science is very solid on methylmercury. That's just one substance where we have a global treaty. And we're talking about plastics, and we've heard there's so many more chemicals. So I do think it's happening across Europe, whether it's these individual tests we're doing here, but the EU is actually doing human biomonitoring of phthalates, and you said other bisphenol A. So,
Sean first and then Jeroen.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, because we often refer to plastic as the smoking of our generation, but the massive difference is you choose to put that cigarette in your mouth. Passive smoking aside, you choose to put that cigarette in and you choose to smoke, even when you know that it's bad for your health. And the thing with plastic is it is omnipresent. It is everywhere. It's in that beer. It's in the air I'm breathing in. We have no choice. And that's the big shocker that you wake up to, is that you now know your results. You know the levels of toxicity in your blood. There ain't nothing you can do about it. And that's why we all have to come together and do what we're doing today, because this will be the lever of change, human health, and the fact we have no choice. And we need to be, the public, we need to be just a little bit more angry, a little bit more anxious. I'm not talking about fear, I'm talking about demanding change. How much more do we need to know? This is incredible that this is happening, and of course we need the proof. But really, we already know enough. You know now.
Yeah. I'd like to respond to that. I'm very impressed by the energy and the collaboration that I see here today. This really is the set-off, I should say, of a movement that is very necessary. Still, I would like to encourage you guys, when you say that, to not look at science as a slow machine that really, it's nice if we know things, but, we already know enough. Look at science as your advocate. I mean, if you research well, you gain so much credibility, you gain so much momentum, and don't underestimate a statement like this, because there's so many people who are working together, and that's really, really, really something.
Absolutely don't.
Yeah.
So
It's everything. It's everything.
And actually,
let's work together.
Science can help us have the evidence which we can actually calculate the health impact, which it does a lot. We work a lot with EU research, so
it gives you direction, right? It's absolutely.
It's the proof.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
All right.
We have different conversations going on now. In any case, Dick, thank you very much for your statement, but it needs to be redacted a little bit, I think, so to get it out and everybody can understand what you just said.
Yeah, and I want to make one more point here, because you already mentioned that. I think it's even essential that we take other groups aboard here. It's such a complicated issue here to unravel, and we want to have the evidence on the table as soon as possible. So I'm happy.
Somebody said in the breakout session, Unilever is absolutely aware of the fact that they are producing massive amount of poisonous stuff, and they want to work on it. The new CEO has said so. Do you have any major global companies on board now? Maria, is there any contact with, Coca-Cola, Pepsi?
We are talking with the fashion industry, and then on the highest level. I cannot tell too much about that. Again, it's Cyril and Plastic Soup Foundation, Parley, who are working on that.
So I would say,
Cyril?
Okay.
Yep.
I would say that every company we're talking to, and there are lots of them, they are members of Parley without us being able to announce them. They're all concerned. They're panicking, actually. And they're panicking because they know that legislation will come. And even if, and that's the great part, and we have to keep that climate up, we have to, and I agree with you, we have to demand and nag on all levels, on a private level, on a very individual level, but also on a professional level, where we always tend to say, oh, there is no option. You know what? That doesn't matter. You ask anyway. Yeah. You go to your vendor and you ask them every day, and you will not believe what impact you're making. But what I know is that the brands, they want to move. This is not anymore a problem that we have to convince the brands of. Now it's about the big chemical industry.
Yeah.
It's about the materials. And that is the interesting part, because if they don't watch out, they're sitting on all technology very soon. And that is the big game that is happening right now.
But that's the same argument that Shell has. I mean, if they know, and they did the research, and they knew...
They know that they're going out of fossil fuel.
But they will kill their business if they start pumping oil and gas.
There's a parallel world that you have to see when it comes to such drastic innovation. that these companies have to keep the status quo officially as long as they can, so they're selling, and they have to create a parallel world where they're actually saying, oh, okay, we're testing, until we have proof that we can swap. And this will never be a clean on-off switch. It will be always a very long process, but what our idea was to say, why wouldn't we pick a set of countries that we declare test markets? Why wouldn't we call these countries future nations or future island nations? We change laws with these presidents there, with these ministers, and we just declare whole countries a test market and say, okay, here in the Maldives, we're phasing out plastic. What is the new material? We're doing that in lots of countries.
With all due respect for the Maldives, and I understand where they're coming from because they are very vulnerable for
no, but it's
climate
every
change.
country in an island.
But are you talking to? Is there any possibility of getting like the Netherlands
India,
or the UK
Indonesia.
or India? That would be
India is
something.
announcing. I think they announced already a ban on single-use plastic items in a very big scale. Okay, I said something I shouldn't say.
No, they retrieved yesterday.
Okay,
Oh.
see, back and forth. But
President Modi forbid plastic, and now he.
And now they retrieved. They don't do it anymore. They said it's impossible. Industry is too important.
And people in the street are getting very angry. I mean, the people
I don't know
who
what's
are discussing
happening
it.
now. It's just news from yesterday.
Okay.
it's big moves.
Well, the EU already has a ban on single-use plastics that they adopted last year, and we heard today in our session upstairs from the European Chemical Agency that they're putting through a restriction on microplastics. So in the European Union is 27, 28 countries, and that's a huge market.
Well, one of the commissioners, the Dutch guy, Frans Timmermans.
No, I know, I
is,
said
busy with
15,
this.
but it's a
Next
first
week,
step.
I would not underestimate size. I think at this point, it's not important to get the United States to do a first big move. It will not happen. You need the small countries. You need to go and say, rather, I have extreme example that it works than compromises in big countries. Because we need to prove that it works. And the moment something works, it can be scaled. That's how business works.
Is that one of the reasons, Maria, has been a very interesting day? The group of people I was missing are politicians.
No, there are clerks in the venue.
They're hiding.
They are hiding. I don't know. No, that was
You're
a
in the
joke.
closet. Okay.
That was a joke. No,
But
they are here.
do you agree that the only way to go is get companies on board and get politicians, political leaders on board?
No, when I learned, when I was traveling the world in 2009, and I visited Captain Charles Moore, who gave this problem the name the plastic soup. I was with him, and he said, Maria, just go back to Holland, start a foundation, and make a difference from there. Because in the north of Europe, it's safe. You have money enough. There is not real poorness. You are so long without war. There is where it starts. The Clinton Foundation is in Holland. Bill Gates is in Holland. Everybody is looking for a position here, and he said, do it in the north of Europe. Start working there. Tell the message to the world and spread the word. And I agree with him, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
I agree with him that the little islands in the world are so polluted. If you see what kind of waste is over there, and they don't have incinerators, they have nothing. So the little islands in the world should be examples for all of us. We need at least help them and take our responsibility.
And
don't forget that
because people who travel to these countries are the leaders of the world.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
if actually a problem occurs at the end of the world in paradise, if there's no hiding ground anymore anywhere on this planet,
They cannot go nowhere.
why is it worth living on this planet anymore? Because I think that's the problem. The nature is now infiltrated with our wrongdoing, with our design failures. There's no hiding place. You can go to the Himalaya and you're eating plastic snow. Mm-hmm. And that is the scary aspect of that. And that's why the visuals are so strong. It's in our air, it's in our water, it's everywhere. And this should bring us all to the street every day. And better than the street is to actually decision makers and give them options. Because right now, it's not anymore about convincing people that plastic is bad. It's about how do we get out of this crisis.
Very good. We promised short and sweet and drinks. Jeroen, you have a last...
I was just thinking that a government is already on board. So the first program has been funded by the government, by all sorts of partners. Fonds. But we need more collaboration. We need companies, we need government, we need Zonnewe, we need all sorts of parties that unite. So I would like to know how can we achieve that. I think your actions are really important to bring us together, to unite us, to have people invest for a longer period of time in research, and then get the microplastics out of the world. I mean, it's just it's an innovation.
Do both. Test the past
and the additive.
Test the killers, test the past, but also test the future. Because we don't want to suddenly introduce new materials that do in 10 years exactly the same what we're doing now with plastic, because plastic was a great idea in the first place.
Okay. Maria, last question to you. We are here sitting in this nice theater in Amsterdam-West in the Houthavens. Next year, where will you be with your tribe?
Well, there is an invitation to go with the second summit to Lisboa. The other invitation, or at least what we're thinking about it, is bringing it to New York. At least 2 more plastic health summits. What's happening already is that scientists working on microplastics in the whole world are approaching us, and as Dick knows, I immediately give them to Dick so he can look who can work with whom. I'm no scientist. I don't know.
A tired activist.
I'm very tired.
Yeah.
I can tell
Okay,
you
so
that.
you want to open the bar then here? Famous last
Drinks
words.
are on the house.
I think one last
Okay.
thing.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, all of you, for this panel. Thank you. Good job. Thank you all for being here. Dankjewel.